Hello, welcome to episode 13 in the Datapack tutorial series. We're on version 1.21. We're going to be enabling triggers for new players. Triggers are pretty cool. They allow a player to type trigger and then the name of your trigger in chat. And then it does something. So this just says trigger activated. But once you've used a trigger, it is disabled and you can never use it again. So what we do is we use the trigger and then enable it again. But if you're a new player joining, your trigger isn't enabled, so you can't use the trigger to re-enable the trigger. So that is a problem we're going to solve with a little bit of help from Galsergi. We did do this in the last episode, fixing the OR detector, but I thought this is probably useful enough to be in an episode by itself. But as always, do check comments, because I am certainly by far not the best at data packs and commands, and there's quite often helpful comments from people down in the comments. So have a look down there as well, just in case someone improves it. I bet someone does. Anyway, let's get on and build it now. Let's enable those triggers for new players. Okay, here we are in Misso's generators. We're going to want the advancement. It is on my recently used, but if it's not on yours, you can go to all generators, just here. And somewhere in there will be advancement. There it is. Okay, I am going to want to make a ticking advancement, so requirement, I believe we're going to have to change. Yeah, we have tick down there. Tick. Okay, and that's going to have a reward, and that's going to run our function. But we don't have a function yet, so I'm just going to put function placeholder. There we go. I am going to copy that with the copy button down in the right hand corner, and I'm going to pop over to VS Code. Okay, so in my namespace, let's create a new folder, advancement, and in there we'll create a new file, and we'll call it player joins dot, and it will be a JSON, and let's paste in. Okay, so our function's going to need to change. Let's call the function, so we'll say, let's go into our functions. There we go. And let's create a new file, and I'll call this player joins. Call it whatever you like. Player joins.mc function. And this is where we're going to enable the triggers. So now we've got the name of player joins. Let's go to our advancement. And so my namespace is IDYT_013. So IDYT_013, and then we have a colon, and that sort of acts as function. So we've got IDYT_013 colon, and then we're going to have player joins. Player joins. Let's save that. Okay, so that should be running every tick, and it should be calling this function. Let's try that. Let's just say hi and save that. Let's see if we've got something viable already that's working. Let's do a reload. So it said hi. Cool. Right. Well, it's only said it one time because I've got that advancement now, so I'm not going to get it again. Okay. What about if we revoke that advancement? For me, that'll do. Only ID. That one. Okay, I revoked it. And as soon as I revoked it, it says, well, you don't have it, so we'll run it again. So let's run it again. Okay, that's good. That's what we want. Let's go back. Right, instead of saying hi here, we will execute as the player executing the function. Well, that's me, because I just got the advancement. Unless score me join matches 1 store success as a score for me join run scoreboard players enable me, and we'll say my trigger. Okay. Ooh, I wanted to save that. S. Right, so we have a problem here. We don't actually have the score join made, and we don't have the scoreboard my trigger made. So let's go to the load function. And let's do scoreboard. I am not autofilling. Is my extension disabled? It is indeed. I should have noticed that. Let's enable that extension. Okay. Scoreboard, objectives, add, and we called it, well, we had two. We had one with my trigger, so let's do my trigger, and that will be of type trigger. And then we have scoreboard, objectives, add, and we had one called join, and that will be of type Minecraft dot custom player. Oh, it's not player leaves game, is it? No, it's just leave game. So whenever the player leaves the game, they're going to get 1 added to that score. Okay, so let's get rid of that. So what's happening? So I join the game for the first time. My join score will be 0 because I've never left the game. So this passes. So then what I do is I store the success into my join score of this command. So my join score is non-existent. It enables the trigger for me, and then it sets my join score to 1. Okay, that seems good. Let's go back to our window here. Now, at the moment, we are not revoking that advancement, so this shouldn't run for me. We need to be able to test the trigger though, so let's go to the tick function. And let's do something to test the trigger. Execute as all players. Scores equals my trigger equals 1 or higher. Run function IDYT underline 013, and we need a function name. What should we call it? Let's say activated. Well, that doesn't exist at the moment, so we better make that. So namespace function activated. New file activated.mc function. And in here, let's do a say command. Say trigger activated. Scoreboard players. That is not how you spell players. Players reset. I better reset my trigger. So we reset the trigger, and then we'll re-enable the trigger as well. Okay, so if someone uses the trigger in chat, we will say trigger activated. Then we'll reset their trigger score and re-enable the trigger for them. Okay, this kind of feels like it does everything we need. So let's join. It might not work at the moment. Let's do a reload. And let's try doing the trigger, because at the moment I think it's disabled. Trigger show level. We don't want show level. Is that what we didn't call it? Show level. What data packs have we got here? Data pack list. Oh, enabling triggers. Okay. Well, why did it say show level then? That seems very strange. Let's go back and have a look. Let's have a look at our load function. It's called my trigger. Have we got a rogue scoreboard objective that hasn't been taken away? Scoreboard objectives. Remove. Oh, we've got lots. So let's get rid of that show level one. My trigger is there. Trigger, but not showing up. Okay. Why is he not showing up? He's the right type, I think. He's a trigger. Okay. Let's try and trigger my Trigger. You cannot trigger this objective yet. Okay, so it's not showing up because it's probably not enabled. Let's do scoreboard, players, enable, for me, my trigger. Now I've enabled it for myself. Trigger, and there he is. Okay. So we could run him now, and triggered my trigger. Trigger activated, and it should have reset it and enabled it again. So we should be able to do trigger my trigger whenever we want now. Cool. If we log off and log back on, then no problem. And if a new player joins now, they shouldn't have a problem. So let's go back to VS Code. So the Datapack runs. We have the load function runs. We create the trigger and we create the leave game. And we say I've loaded. Now this is going to run before any players have joined. So there's no point enabling the trigger in here. Now let's say I'm a new player. Here we go. We've got the tick running and we run player joins. So we go from the advancement to player joins. And it says, does your score join match 1? And we'd say no. And it says, fair enough then. I will enable the trigger for you and set your join score to 1. Now we can use the trigger. Okay, now we use the trigger. And this tick function here catches us using the trigger and runs activated. We can get rid of that wiggly line. It just hasn't been updated. There we go. And that runs activated. And activated does what we want it to do. And then it resets the trigger and enables it again. So whether I'm new or I'm an existing person, the trigger should now be available for everyone. What if you had more than one trigger though? I think there might be a little bit of a problem with this. Let's get another trigger. Let's do scoreboard, my trigger, and scoreboard. Well, let's be fair. I've got one, so you can have one as well. Your trigger. S. Now let's go to our player joins function. So you might think we could just copy that. There we go. We'll have two of them, and we'll just say your trigger here. There we go. Well, the problem we've got now is we're going to run the first command. Execute unless score join matches 1. Well, okay, it doesn't. Let's enable the trigger, so it then enables the trigger. And then because it's enabled the trigger, we had a success. And because we had a success, we set the join score to 1. Now it goes to the next line. Execute unless score join matches 1. Oh, it does match 1 now. We won't do that line. So we're only going to be enabling one of them. I think probably what would be easiest to do here is make another function. So let's get another function, make a new file. We'll call it enable triggers mc.function. Let's go to player joins and we'll copy all of this. Copy. And we'll go to enable triggers and we'll paste it in. But what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of all these checks. Get rid of that check. Get rid of that check. And we're just going to enable the 2 triggers for @s. Okay. Now let's go back to player joins. Let's get rid of one of these. And here, if our join score doesn't match 1, then instead of running the scoreboard, we will run the function enable triggers S. So if your join score doesn't match 1, store success, run this function. This function will go to enable triggers. Enable triggers will enable both triggers. We should be fine. Let's give it a test. Here we are. Let's do a reload. Let's do trigger, my trigger. That works. Now we might not have the other one available yet because we are in the game as we're making changes. And also I don't think I even did I create it in load? I did, so we should have the 2 triggers. But we already have that advancement. So for us, this is not running, because our join score does equal 1. So this isn't running for us. This will only affect new players at the moment. So we have to do a little bit of a reset. And also, we're going to want to do our tick. Let's copy that. Because we need to detect your trigger as well. We'll say activated, I don't know, 0, 1 will do. Let's save that. Let's make a copy of activated. And we'll change it to activated 0, 1. And in activated 0, 1, we'll just reset your trigger and your trigger. And we'll put trigger 0, 1. No, let's put your trigger. Okay, save. Let's go back. Let's reload. Okay, so I already have that advancement, so it shouldn't be working for me at the moment. Yeah, let's try advancement, revoke, for me only. I'll start typing my name. Oh, there it is. Revoke that. Trigger. Now I've revoked the advancement, which you won't have to do manually because obviously your player will join. Only when doing testing did we have to reset that. So now we've got a choice of my trigger. I can run my trigger and it says trigger activated, and I should still have it available. Trigger activated, yeah. Or I should be able to switch to your trigger activated, and it should still be available. Your trigger activated. Cool. Now, it doesn't matter when we join. As long as the Datapack is running when we join, we will now have all the triggers enabled for us, and we won't have that problem of when do we enable it, because obviously you can't enable it in the load function. As I said, if you enable it in here, it will enable, but there won't be any players online to enable it for. So this way we get around that problem. We have the ticking advancement. The ticking advancement runs player joins. Player joins checks if they've joined before. If they haven't, we enable all the triggers for them. But once their triggers are enabled, our tick function is checking if they change. And if they do change, then it runs the corresponding function. And in the corresponding function, we do what we want, and we reset and re-enable the trigger. Cool. Okay. Little bit of a long-winded one there. I think I probably could have made that a bit quicker, but I didn't, apparently. Well, thank you to Galsergi for showing us how to do this, and I will catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.